Hi, I'm John Griswold, conservator at the Norton Simon Museum. Today I'd like to talk about a concept in the preservation of environmentally sensitive objects that has captured the imagination of both stewards of collections as well as the public. This concept has ancient roots, that of creating a sealed protective chamber to house an artifact or work of art. Ancient examples include a jade burial suit for preserving the body of a Chinese emperor, reliquaries with rock crystal windows, Egyptian multi-layered coffins, and the like. There are two ways of achieving this stable, sealed environment. Actively, by inputting energy constantly into a system that circulates conditioned air, or in some cases inert gas, and passively, by setting up a fully enclosed package or chamber that is intended to remain stable on its own. These principles have been applied to display case designs for the preservation of particularly sensitive museum collection objects since the early 20th century. Such systems were complicated to set up and maintain, and were certainly not portable or compact. They relied on open trays of salty liquids and oven heating according to precise calculations for frequent reconditioning of the humidity buffering materials. By the 1970s, new silica gel products designed to precisely buffer humidity levels inside packages, complete with color-changing indicators, were prevalent. The newly widespread availability of these products, relatively easy to prepare and maintain, streamlined the design possibilities of passive environmental enclosure systems, including portable microchambers for individual artworks. This chamber was created during that era for our small portrait of Jörg Fugger by Giovanni Bellini from 1474, while out on loan to another museum. With the extremely delicate painted panel inside, the whole package fitted inside the painting's frame. It's a perfect example of the old environmental chamber technology. It's comparatively heavy. You can see it's made of thick plexiglass and that the resin is yellowed. The airtight seal depended on a solvent adhesive that partly melted and fused the plastic together. This joint becomes more porous and brittle over time. The face is a heavy, shatterproof laminated glass, an early generation museum glazing that also filtered ultraviolet light. Two fabric packets containing the silica gel were separated from the artwork by a piece of metal screen. The gel was carefully conditioned with a metallic salt solution to keep relative humidity close to 55%. Next to it is a small thermohygrometer, an analog device with dials allowing one to monitor the conditions inside the chamber and to know when it might need to be reopened and reconditioned. Today, the panel is displayed inside its own wall case. Perhaps surprisingly, a similar portable environmental chamber system, fabricated in the 1980s, remains effective in stabilizing a pair of our most vulnerable artworks even to this day. Portraits from around 1663 by Joseph Werner, done in gouache on parchment, depicting Louis XIV and Mademoiselle de la Vallière in costume. They remain stretched on their ancient wooden strainers, a rigid support frame. For years, the extremely reactive parchment would expand and contract, forming wrinkles at the corners as it strained against the rigid wood support. The chambers were part of an extensive conservation treatment to address flaking paint on the moving parchment. I've been monitoring these encapsulated artworks closely and found them to be stable enough to exhibit them briefly a few years ago. Looking closely at the chambers, you can see the rows of silica gel packets in open net bags, the thermohygrometer, and the heavy plexiglass box with discolored adhesive. When I replace the old chamber enclosures on the Werner gouaches, I'll be using new products that have allowed remarkable advances in portable microenvironments. With the advent of laminated, aluminum-based films, much more effective and form-fitting gas-impermeable enclosures can easily be made. Seams can now be closely fitted and sealed with a hot iron or by using specialized adhesive tapes. Like the old chambers on the Bellini and Werners, this slim pouch can be attached to the edges of the frame's glazing, forming a tight seal. But what really makes this new enclosure system work as a portable microenvironment are the recent improvements in humidity buffering products. For example, these thin sheets are preconditioned to maintain a specific RH level of 50%, and a single sheet can easily be included in sealed framing packages. Like the Werner gouaches, pastels on paper often incorporate additional cardboard or other rigid support layers taped or adhered together by the artist. These composite objects are now considered historically important assemblies, retaining evidence of how artists like Edgar Degas and Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec worked. They can also be incredibly fragile and vulnerable to changes in an environment. Working with the Getty Museum's Paper Conservation Department, we are using this new generation of barrier films, adhesive tapes, and humidity buffering sheets to upgrade our care of the 18th and 19th century pastels in our collection. Protective enclosures are built up with layers of mat board and Japanese tissue supports to gently cushion the edges of the fragile works. Like the enclosures used for panel paintings, the clear glazing protecting the face of the artwork becomes a key part of the package, which incorporates a humidity buffering sheet. The various approaches described here for creating sealed, portable microenvironments for artworks work well in a closely monitored museum context. Each artwork presents its own specific challenges, and a team of conservators, conservation scientists, curators, and other specialists is required to develop appropriate systems of care.